Hey, Hospinus, look at that.
said a tall, skinny man with long hair, tapping the shoulder of the fat, tanned man walking next to him.
What is it?
Hospinus narrowed his eyes, and stared in the direction the long-haired man was pointing. There, in the middle of a market bustling with people, there was an old woman sitting all by herself. In the hot sunshine, the old woman is wearing a black cloth, covering her entire head.
What a creepy old hag. It's so hot just looking at her in that outfit.
Hospinus fanned his face with hand, and said, "Let's go," and motioned with his chin. In front of the old woman, there were a number of glass containers, containing what appeared to be liquid medicine. Seeing it, Hospinus's eyes wide opened.
Spratulus, why does this old woman have so much expensive glass?
Hospinus asked in a low voice to the long-haired man. Spratulus was also surprised, and he covered his mouth and tilted his head. Unable to control his impulse, Hospinus approached the old woman.
Hey grandma, what on earth are you doing here?
The old woman, who had been motionless and had her head bowed, slowly raised her head when Hospinus called out. Seeing that face, Hospinus was speechless. The old woman had no pupils in her eyes. Her wide-open eyes were yellow like rotten eggs. Her wrinkled face was topped by a long, large nose like an eagle's beak. The old woman stared at Hospinus for a moment, then shook her head in disappointment and bowed her head again. Then she muttered something.
Huh?
Hospinus asked. "It's medicine," the old woman replied in a husky voice. "I'm selling medicine, but I don't have any potions to sell to you guys. Get out of here."
What did you say?
Splatterus tried to calm the furious Hospinus.
Let's leave her alone.
Hospinus spat out as Spratulus pulled him by the arm.
Damn, you're a mortal sinner.
Then the two guys left the place.
Yeah, I see. I know. Yes, please. Okay, bye.
After hanging up the phone, Sana leaned back in her chair. Sana was shocked when she was told from Chris' mother that Bebe had died. A few years ago, she often took Bebe for a walk with Chris.
Bebe was feeling so fine.
Sana remembered Bebe running around happily, and realized how long it had been since she had last played with Chris. And most of all, she couldn't help but feel sorry for Chris.
Bebe was Chris's emotional anchor. Now that Bebe is gone, is Chris in a good mental state? He's cried himself to sleep, but that's no surprise.
Sana told Chris' mother to call her back when he woke up.
When he wakes up, I'll come and see him.
Sana put her smartphone on the shelf, and lay down on the bed.
Hey, wake up.
As someone shook him, Pharos woke up.
Are you okay?
The blue-eyed young man asked, peering worriedly into Pharos' face. Pharos, who had been leaning against the wall, straightened up and shook his head, saying, "I just fell asleep." Pharos pressed his temples lightly and asked, "You've been awake, Orgos?"
Yeah, I can't sleep in this sunlight. You probably got sunstroke. You should drink plenty of water,
said Orgus, handing him a leather bag full of water. Pharos took a sip, and wiped his beard, then popped a crust of uneaten bread into his mouth. Then a soldier called out, "Break's over. At your posts." The two young men stood up, and following the soldier's instructions, returned to the line carrying the cargo in the scorching sunlight.
Let's have some wine when we're done,
said Hospinus, wiping the sweat from his forehead as he handed the bag over to Pharos. After handing over the package to Orgos, Pharos shook his head.
No, I don't have that kind of time.
Seeing Pharos' gloomy expression, Splatterus, who was carrying the luggage beside him, said as if he had just remembered something.
By the way, we saw an old woman selling medicines in the market this morning.
Then, Hospinus quickly interjected, waving his hand, and said, "No, no, no.
The medicines sold by that shady old hag have no effect whatsoever. On the other hand, if you drink it, you'll die in the end."
Hospinus said sulkingly, seemed like still angry at the old woman's ignorance.
Well, that's true, but if she has that many glass objects, maybe she's a pretty well-known compounder.
Hospinus snorted at Spratulus's words.
If that's the case, then it's probably not something we can afford. In fact, when that old woman saw how we looked, she said she didn't have any potions to sell to us. She won't sell it to you when you get there.
Then, meeting Pheros's eyes, Hospinus shook his head and reassured him.
Don't worry, Emilu is sick will surely be cured.